Not once had it occurred to me that printing could be life-changing. When I was a teenager, I had often thought that my dad worked in the most boring of industries, and that it couldn't get more mundane than a black and white photocopier. Fast forward to where we are today, and my thinking has evolved with the technology we are presented. Ironic. Technology on a global scale, but also our individual lives, the impact it has become immeasurable. And we obtained 3D printers a year or so ago, and they were brought into our workshop, and we were so excited because it was something so different. We had only ever had copiers, printers, fax machines. And here we had first world technology at our fingertips, and we were going to create spaceships. We were going to have magic happen right here in our workshops. And so when we unpacked them and we looked at them, we all stared at each other because we didn't quite know what to do with them. What do we do? How do we do it? And so we could print 3D figurines, but what was the point? And so we packed them away. And that was a bit of a low for us because first world technology at our fingertips, and we had no clue. And so in fact, when spaceships were not flying out of our offices, my brother did walk past my office and say, "We can print hands," and carried on walking. So when he said this to me, I saw a piece of paper with a little hand printed on it, and I wasn't quite sure where he was going with this. Thankfully, that was the day that Ryan introduced me to e-NABLE. And e-NABLE is a global network of volunteers who are using printing to create 3D prosthetics. And it could be said, although it's a bit cliche, e-NABLE's whole aim is to better the world through lending a hand. And it was actually almost founded by mistake with husband and wife couple in America who created a big claw-like metal hand for a convention that they were going to one weekend. And it was so successful and so raved about at this convention that they uploaded it onto YouTube for fun. Simultaneously, a carpenter in South Africa, the other side of the world, saw this post and got a hold of them and asked, "Could you make me a hand?" Without hesitation and without even knowing how they would do it, they said yes. And without the gift of the internet, over 5,000 amputees would not have benefited from e-NABLE. Not just because of the technology it takes to create the hand and run the print, but because e-NABLE's birth would not have occurred without the ability of complete strangers to and fro the ideas and thoughts and designs across seas in real time. And we are simply part of that community. And so initially, I wanted to just see if we could, in fact, print a hand. That's what came out. And so it was a sort of hand that sort of closed, but it didn't inspire us much. And so I took it home and I stared at it, hoping it would tell me what I needed to do. It didn't. And this is where I reached out to e-NABLE and asked for help. And through their posts, their blogs, their forums, their website, their Facebook pages, I had access to an entire library of knowledge of people who had encountered situations I didn't even know that were coming. And help is there, and help really is there. You just have to ask. People want to help. I'm sure, as with all of you, if you were asked for help, what would you say? And so I found it quite something that technology then at work, it became my blessing. It became my resource, and I couldn't be without. Yet at home, as a mother to a young child, it's my curse. And so we went on, and once we got our help and we scrutinized the e-NABLE website, I felt right now we are ready to print a hand. And so we created and did a call on social media for people to please come forward, making it very clear that we did not know what we were doing, how we were going to do it, and if in fact it would even turn out. And measurements, so what happens is we call in our candidates and our candidates come in and we have to measure them. And the measurements that we need are of the existing limb, where the limb is amputated, the circumference, the forearm, the hand, the palm, the fingers. It's quite detailed. They have to be photographed and recorded, and it's got to be quite precise. And when our first two candidates came in, they must have thought that they had walked into complete chaos and a comedy show. Not just because of my sense of humor, but I was watching YouTube videos while I was trying to record them. That's what they said. And so we came in, Hard Life came in. He was one of our first candidates, and he came in through a friend via Facebook. Again, another blessing in technology of bringing together people and communities who very possibly would not have connected without it. It's just up to us what we choose to use technology for that decides whether it's an advantage or a disadvantage to our being. So Hard Life came in, and between it was chaos. We had pause, measure, play, fumbling around the tapes, running to the laptop, watching a little bit of a YouTube clip, and running back to Hard Life to measure up. I don't even know if we measured him correctly the first time, actually. But between all that, Hard Life was so sure we could do something for him. I was not so sure. It seemed very complex. It seemed very technical. And it seemed very mathematical, of which I am none of those things. And so what we do is we take the measurements that we have and we input them into a 3D modeling software. Thanks to e-NABLE, that design is already actually created. We just need to tailor-make it to our candidates. And so we take that 3D modeling software and we feed it into a printer software. The printer then heats up to an optimum of around 215 degrees, and it melts like a plastic thread into successive layers that build up the product according to the design. This can take hours, it can even take days, depending on the complexity of the actual design. And so with the hand, we can't print the whole hand in one go, and so we print it in sections, and then we take a couple of hours after it's all done to build it up and assemble it. And in his first fitting, the cuff was a little bit too long. It was quite uncomfortable. The hand was quite bulky. And it just wasn't as streamlined as what we had hoped it would be. He came in for his second fitting, in which we had hoped we had fixed all of the problems. And we did it. We secured the Velcro straps. And just like that, Hard Life had a limb. Thank you. I handed Hard Life a bottle of water in my office to see if we could actually do this. And when I handed it to him, he extended the prosthetic that we had printed, and it closed around the bottle of water. And he picked it up and he tried to drink. Something he had not been able to do for over 6 years, since losing his limb in a car accident on his way home from training one day. And so when Hard Life did this, he lifted it up and he drank, sort of, and the water spilled over him. And with tears in my eyes and in his, he packed out laughing and looked at me and said, "I'll get this." And here was a man who, when he met us, complete strangers, he handed over his faith to us. That when we got there, he would get there. And we took his faith and we transmitted it into a print. And that's the moment I realized that printing is powerful. And printing can create an emotion, a powerful emotion. And it occurred to me then that an action, just as taking a sip of water, is taken for granted. Is it something you even think about when you're doing it in your everyday? And that having a fully able body is a gift that we need to utilize. Not just to explore the world, but to contribute positively towards it. And so he brought the print back to us a week or so later with great feedback, but could we please just tighten up the strings, these strings that run through on the forearm to kind of get the grip more secure. Very simply done, and sure we could. And while this was being done, I wanted to chat to Hard Life and find out from him, what did it mean for you, besides the obvious and the physical aspects of losing a limb, but what did it mean for you to now have a prosthetic? And Hard Life said to me, when I asked him this, he said to me, you guys took me back to my former self before my accident. And I stood there and I took this in. What did it mean? And what it meant was, for me, is that while things may not have been ever the same for him, it didn't mean that they couldn't be just as great and just as beautiful. And here it was, and suddenly it hit me that the technology we had, it may not have been printing spaceships, but it was changing lives. And this moment hit me day after day that in fact my brother was not crazy when he told me we could print hands. And my dad's industry was not boring, perhaps the most innovative. I just hadn't comprehended that yet. And I believe, considership, that soul and purpose have to be at the core of our being and our days if we are to live in a better world of compassion. And so we've initially undertaken to give these prints away and do it for free. It is because of gain and greed that these very candidates cannot afford a prosthetic, nor are they afforded the opportunity by our own healthcare sector. And so the setback, though, comes in because after Hard Life's fitting, that was it. I couldn't work for the rest of the day. I wanted to go buy thousands of printers. I wanted a manufacturing line, and we were going to do this. Logically, with the setback is that we cannot print and buy thousands of 3D printers, and we cannot print forever for free. Forever is a very long time. It's even longer with no electricity, no water, and no hard currency to buy the kits that we need. And also, we've also recently hit delays in load shedding. So if we have an electrical interruption, the print is scrapped, regardless of how close to completion it is. And so in redoing Hard Life's cuff, it should have taken us 15 hours. It took us 9 days. And so as the load shedding increases, our print time drastically reduces. In addition to this, the kits that we order from America take 12 days to travel 14,640 odd kilometers to Harare Airport. They take a further 7 weeks to come from Harare Airport, 7 Ks, to our offices in Granite-Side. So as the word spreads and the demand grows, Nashua needs to find a way in which we can continue to do this for free, because that's our aim. And so the condition of the country at the moment does not allow us to continue to do this for free. And we are actually a commercial entity and a printing company. We're not a charitable organization. As much as we place an emphasis on doing good and giving back and helping, perhaps we have just started a path that someone else could follow. But what's next? What's next is we need to find a sustainable way to do this, but also to lift the level of love, gratitude, and goodness in our own homeland. What I do know, and how we're going to do this, I don't know yet. But what I do know is that each one of us has to take it upon ourselves to look past the frustrations of the power cuts, the fuel shortages, the price increase, and just the price we pay for being a Zimbabwean, and take it as an opportunity to not focus on hypothetical first world problems, to not focus on filling our pockets financially, but we are provided a country in which we have the opportunity to fill our souls, to fill ourselves, and to give. And we may not be able to hand out monetary donations, but we can in some way in our day, be it at home or at work, find a way to give back to someone somewhere. that we are given the chance at every turn we take to take the world into what I believe it was intended to be and do something and give back. And that can be in the smallest of ways or the craziest. Crazy like printing a prosthetic with no medical experience whatsoever and seemingly simple technology. But it all lies within us and ourselves of what we choose to do with the frustrations of our country, the same way it lies with us in what we choose to use technology for that decides if it's going to be an advantage to our being and our days and for future generations to come. I have huge admiration for those who have lost limbs. In addition to all the challenges we face, they continue to thrive. They continue to get up every day and do everything at a disadvantage. And it's those people who really need to know that they are cared about. And if people want to know that they are cared about, that has to be felt. And so while words are motivational, words are inspirational, words should not be forgotten. But what is needed next, not just in Zimbabwe, but on a global scale, is caring for people through action. And that's what 3D printing is doing. Thank you.